I want to get your thoughts on the celebrity hero worship culture, the stance. Now on social media, you often see Wizkid's fans versus Davido's fans, or Burna Boy's fans versus Davido's fans. It's very toxic. It's a very toxic place. Um, what are your thoughts on that? Personally, I think it's a symptom of poverty in the country. It's a symptom of joblessness because I don't see anyone who has a serious 9 to 5 job engaging in Twitter wars about Burna Boy being better than Davido. And sometimes these fans go to the extreme. I remember when Davido lost his son, some people, said foul things against this guy. They said, some said he sacrificed his son. Some, like, bro, these fans, some of them, they've lost their sense totally, to be honest. So what do you think about this celebrity hero worship culture going on the internet?
Well, I'm not surprised because it's not just a thing that's common to Afrobeats. It happens maybe, yeah, it happens in every other, every music culture across the world. But yeah, perhaps in our own case, we are a bit extreme, with the hero worship and all of that. Well, I think it's a more psychological thing. People always have this need to believe in something, people always have this need to believe in something. And so once they find an appeal in something, they have this need because we all have a bit of emptiness in us, and we look out to. That's why we have religion. I mean, we need to believe in something higher than us. We have religion, we have music, we have every other higher philosophy and all of that. So for these people, they see celebrity, that their role models as something to believe in, and someone they could go to the ends of the earth for. Yeah, it happens that religion has also done its own case in creating a cult-like following for many, many, many for pastors and leaders, religious leaders. And I think it's just the equivalent of what we have in religion that we have here in the music industry too. So this fan base is just that cult-like following that we see in the religious circle. Yeah. So people would, I think it's it's the kind of appeal they have on this. They tend to feel. They fill up their minds, their fantasies with images of this person, this celebrity. So it's the effects of the music on them or what have you. I think if I would go outside Africa, we saw it in the case of Michael Jackson. Growing up, I watched a lot of videos, and I was like, I saw people fainting, and I was like, oh my god, these people are so gullible. How would they be fainting just because of a certain stroke of hand that Michael Jackson just did? But I think on our own side, we've come to see instances of this, and I think it's just the typical natural phenomenon of celebrity. Whether in whatever facets of society is, you always find that cult-like following. Yeah.
True. In addition to that, Nigerians don't really have a lot of things to be proud of. Our politics is trash.
Yeah.
The only thing they find pride in is the music, and the music has been a success. So
Yeah.
I think that also contributes to the hero worship culture.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And also of this our campaign, Afrobeat to the world. Yeah. So that explains why we keep pushing that campaign on Twitter and other social media channels.
absolutely. I was having the discussion with a friend the other day. I'm speaking to the Afrobeats to the world, sentiment. Now, have you noticed how in the early 2000s, we used to complain about the Grammys being discriminatory. They discriminate against African artists, they discriminate against African artists. And now in recent years, we've had Burna Boy, we've had Thames, we've had Wizkid win some Grammys. So personally, I think there's a bit of a cognitive dissonance. On the one hand, you claim the organizers of these awards discriminate against you, and yet you still desperately want to win these awards. I don't know whether you see this cognitive dissonance. So personally, if I was any of these guys, I wouldn't give a damn about the Grammys, to be honest. As long as I am validated by my own people in my own country and on my own continent. If anyone wants to give me a Grammy award, fine. If they don't want to give me any Grammy awards, I'm good. Because I cannot say on the one hand, these guys are racist, they're discriminatory, and on the other hand, I still want to win that award. And to be honest, this is the way I personally see it. The Grammys are an American award. It's organized by Americans, right? So what that means is Americans would prioritize their own music, their own artists more than any other artists across the world.
Yeah.
You understand? It's just we have Eddies in Nigeria, right? So imagine an artist from the Gambia or an artist from Botswana complaining that the Eddies are discriminating against them. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, you
Naturally,
know,
the Eddies will prioritize Nigerian artists more than any other artist in the world.
yeah. But you know, on that, in that regard, I would say this that well, yeah, you know, I think the Grammy represents the peak of a musician's career, and for Nigerian artists who are desperate to do that to make a crossover, you know, on American markets, the Grammy represents. Imagine it's like a Grammy is a stamp of honor, a badge of honor on having, you know, having led a very successful music career. And so wanting the validation of uh, a Western audience, they strive as much as possible to you know to get even I'm not just to get just a Grammy nomination, you know. But also we even see it in the case of the Ellys too. Last year the Ellys held its first ever concert, had a first ever edition in over 15 years in Atlanta last year.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you carry a Nigerian award, an award dedicated to celebration of Nigerian music culture to America, to a foreign land. Why? What was the rationale behind that? So I think there's of course there's an insecurity with us as a Nigerian. We have this blatant insecurity. We feel like we really need to be out there. We need to showcase our music, our stuff to other people before we can, you know, to win their validation. Because before we can feel complete with ourselves, feel successful in our own rights. So I think it's dealing with that insecurity. Not, of course, we won't want to admit to that, but it's something that is, you know, latent in all of us. You know, the same thing happens to in the writers too. You know, writers wanting to appeal to Western audience. You know, in order to be termed successful and all that. So we look to the West basically for validation.
Sure. Yeah. So speaking to your point about the insecurities we have as a collective, when was the last time you saw a Davido or Burna Boy attend a Headies ceremony? You know, once you cross a particular threshold, what you care about is winning Western awards, the Grammys, the BETs, the mobiles. That's what they mostly care about once they hit that threshold, and they don't care about our local awards. And yet, we now complain that those guys are racist if you don't win an award or something. It doesn't make sense, especially a Burna Boy that lectures us about our history. You know, he wastes no time telling us, oh, we need to learn about our history. You know, he fakes this patriotism, this Africanism. He fakes it. But when it matters the most, he doesn't care about local awards anymore. So you can see the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy stinks, bro.
Self-appointed, self-styled Pan-Africanists, African
Exactly, bro.
giants.
Exactly. It stinks. The hypocrisy stinks. And I can't stand it,
yeah.
honestly.
I think that's what separates Afrobeats now from Afrobeats. Of course, I even like to call Afrobeats Afropop, you know, but you know, I think Afropop is a better fitting name for it than Afrobeats. But you know, because I don't see the connection between the two of them. You know, I don't see how they are connected. I don't see how using music as a medium for channeling grievances at the government, at society, at, you know, using music to build up better society. I don't see how it's connected to using music to express your desires, to talk about, to rave about your sexual fantasies and all that. I don't see how they're connected. Absolutely. So I think I mean, that alone is a dichotomy between Afrobeats and more Afrobeats.
Exactly.